All right. Hopefully we are live and you can hear me nice and clearly. Let's get this walking pad. That's probably enough speed for the time being. Getting a bit brave with the speed while I do these lives. All right, what we're going to cover today. Not so much a Christmas or festive kind of time of year themed subject today, but something that is important for any man over 40 trying to fix his health, his body, get in shape, and that is evening snacking. And I'm going to talk about it because it's one thing that I obviously still have to deal with, or at least kind of think about, especially now I've kind of got to the back end of this diet where calories are lower and hunger starting to creep in, starting to get a bit kind of bored of the process, quite frankly, and therefore the evenings have been more challenging than they were 5 or 6 weeks ago. I found personally that, and I always find this, the first 3 to 4 weeks challenging. Evenings I want a snack, trying to get out of that habit of just eating what I want. This can be tough. Then I kind of get in the zone, start to see results, and it becomes relatively easy. Might get the odd day where it's challenging, but in most cases easier. And then towards the back end, it can be quite challenging. And that's really, from my point of view, really driven by one of the reasons which I'm going to cover. But the thing is, if you don't stop snacking at night, you'll never lose weight. And it's really quite simple because it really just comes down to mathematics. It just comes down to numbers. You have only so many calories that you can eat across the entire day. From the moment that you wake up to the time that you lay your head on the pillow and go to sleep, there's only so much food you can consume and still achieve your goals. It varies, and it will vary based on activity, but there's still a number. The problem is when we snack in the evening, we tend to choose things which are very easy to eat, very calorie dense, and therefore the snacking in the evening can often add a ton of calories. And if you do that even just 2 or 3 nights a week, it can be enough to take the calorie deficit that we are accumulating across the week. So it might be 500. By Tuesday, it's 1,000. By Wednesday or the end of Wednesday, it's 1,500. It's very easy to eat into that and essentially ruin all your hard work, or in some cases, actually gain weight. At the weekend, I had my refeed, which I always do. And if you've been following me for a while, you would have seen them. And I might do a video on this. I actually want to do a video of me eat, somehow do it without it being disgusting, but a video of me eating snacks with some kind of timer, just to show how quickly the calories can add up in a short amount of time when you choose things like biscuits. So I was eating some, what were they? These little Cadbury's brownies that are like, you get them in the clear plastic containers. You normally get them from Sainsbury's or Tesco. You can get cornflake cakes, you can get like the Millionaire shortbread. And I had the Cadbury's little brownie bites. And they are literally just a bite. Each one of those, something like 65 calories. And I sat there and ate, I think there's 20 in a pack. And then later that evening, I did about 2,500 calories from eating a Burger King. My point being is that it's very easy to eat those kind of foods because they're very tasty, they're very calorie dense, and typically they don't really fill you up overly well, so you can eat lots of them. Recipe for disaster. So if you don't fix this kind of habit of snacking in the evening, you're probably always going to spin your wheels. So let's talk about some of the reasons why it happens. And then as we go, we can kind of talk about what you might do to try and fix it. Some of it will obviously come down to mindset, as it always does. So at some point in this, I'll probably just say, focus on why you need to do it. But there's also some strategies as well. First one is just obvious. You're hungry. I'm a great example of that now. Hungry at night. Don't quite frankly have many calories to play with. So It's actually more of a case for me that it's just part of it now. It really can't be helped. It can be managed a little bit. But if you are at the other end of the journey, like you are literally just starting, or you're going to start, then your hunger shouldn't be that bad. And what often happens, I see this with the guys that I speak to, with clients, especially with executives who are busy, is you will do things like not eat throughout the day, maybe have a breakfast, or you just wake up, you have a coffee, maybe you'll grab a snack at lunchtime, a sandwich or a packet of crisps. But from the kind of time that you wake up to the time you get home, sometimes you just don't eat much food. Sometimes deliberately, because you think it will stop you from overeating as a whole. I'll skip a meal. But as I just said, if I need to eat 2,000 calories a day to lose weight, and I don't eat those calories all day, well, at the weekend I ate 2,500 calories of Burger King in the space of about 10 minutes. It's a bit of a crude example, but quite frankly, if you starve yourself throughout the day and then you come home and you have biscuits and crisps and you order takeaways or you just snack on junk food, you will eat more calories in that small period of time than you would have done had you just controlled your hunger throughout the day by eating some meals. So some of you do it because you think it's going to lead to faster weight loss, and of course it backfires. Some of you you're very busy and there's kind of the habit is not there. Sometimes you can be so busy that you don't get time, or you don't even really think about the hunger. But the same thing happens. You get home very hungry, blood sugar is low. Then you've got the temptation of everyone else possibly having foods that you want. And I find, and everyone finds this, go to the shops hungry and then go to the shops not hungry. Like go shopping hungry or go shopping after a meal. It's so much harder to make the right choices when you're hungry. So don't let your hunger get out of hand. Find ways to bring meals into your day. Have some, like, even if it's just you have a breakfast, you have a lunch, maybe have some protein bars, protein shakes, things that you can consume that are high in protein and quick. Don't let yourself go the whole day without eating. Then by the time you get home, you're starving. If you do have a day like that, which I've had those days myself, then it does come back to discipline. All of this comes back to discipline. Like, just because you're hungry doesn't mean you have to eat rubbish. Just because you've had a bad day, which we'll come to in a minute, doesn't mean you have to eat rubbish. It's just harder to not. So again, obviously there's an element of discipline to this and just, mindset. But in terms of practical terms, letting yourself get very, very hungry is typically not a good idea. I'm talking to you, especially if you're somebody that thinks skipping those meals is going to help you lose weight faster. It isn't, because you end up consuming more calories after. So there's your first reason, hunger. And I'll add in that typically, I find personally that when people are craving things, often it's because they're hungry as well. There are times when I think to myself, like, I fancy a chocolate bar or a pizza, whatever. But if I haven't got the hunger to go with it, it's not as powerful. It's like, I could eat it, but I'm not overly hungry. If you combine hunger and restriction, you do have cravings. Again, not a good place to be. This next one, chatting to a guy yesterday who is just doing we just do monthly consultations. I tell him what to do, he goes off and does it. We had the first one last month. Yesterday was the second one, and everything had gone well apart from the diet. And his problem was snacking in the evening. The reason why he is snacking in the evening is just personal problems. So some of you will come home from work stressed, angry. Sometimes you'll just have have an argument with your wife. Kids will do something frustrating. Something will make you stressed or kind of emotional, and you comfort eat, because sugary foods make us feel better for about 3 seconds. They make you feel better until you have stopped eating, and then about 20 minutes later, you think to yourself, well, it didn't make me feel any better. The problem I was trying to fix with the food is still there, And now I've added an extra problem, which is I've ruined my weight loss journey. And I said to my client yesterday, quite frankly, and he agreed. He's like, I said, you can either have your problem and be slim, or you can have your problems and be fat. You might as well just stay on track. What do you do if you're an emotional eater? Well, in extreme cases, you see this with the TV programs. Probably no one on this won't probably be relevant to anyone on this who watches this. But if you ever see those programs on TV where people are morbidly obese, they often send them to therapy. So obviously that's not my job, but there might be cases where the emotional eating and stuff is being triggered by things that are beyond the help of someone like myself. So obviously that is something to consider. If it's a genuine, like a problem, it's causing some big health concerns. For those of you just kind of, you come home and you've had a crappy day, it's like, no, it's not really a huge problem. It's more of a case if you're kind of had a bad day and you want to open up a chocolate bar to make yourself feel better, then things you can do, again, don't let yourself be hungry. Give yourself a rule that if you ever want to snack on something, that you won't snack on the thing because you probably have something in mind that you want. Often it'll be something you know is in the cupboard or in the fridge or something you want to order. You could give yourself a rule that you won't eat it unless you eat kind of 50 grams of protein and some fruit and veg first. So basically have a healthy meal first, which will most likely fill you up. It will just bring that hunger down, and then you'll sit there and go, yeah, I don't really need it. Other things you can do is just make sure that someone other than yourself, because you probably can't do it, holds you accountable. So that on this, you really have to be quite mindful to do this, but you have to kind of stop and think, right, I'm pissed off, I'm stressed. Do I have this cookie or these cookies? Or do I stay on track, achieve my goals, because I know that I'm gonna have to check in with my coach, or maybe I've promised my children that I'm gonna, get more energy and get in shape, and you don't want them to see you eating foods that you don't want, or you've said the same to your partner. Something that makes you think, I guess, kind of takes you back into more logical thinking. Because if you've had a bad day at work, or you're comfort eating, you're eating because of your emotions, you need to try and get back to logical thinking, because logical thinking will be, I don't need to eat this food because it won't help me. It's not going to make me feel better, and it's going to interfere with my goals. But when you're emotional, it's hard to do that. So maybe have this kind of accountability or people there to kind of stop you from doing it. So don't be hungry. And then what you could do is, if you're sitting there contemplating having some snacks, and you are quite frankly just sat watching the TV, then you could go out and do something. Take yourself away from that environment. Go for a walk. Go and play with the kids. Do something to distract yourself. So, especially if it's something that makes you feel happy. Like if I had a bad day and I want to eat bad foods, something I could do is could go for a walk. It would pull me away from the kitchen, probably allow me to avoid a bad decision, while at the same time probably make me feel better. Could go to the gym, could do some boxing, could meditate, could do some stretching, could just hang out with your partner, your spouse, your wife. Do something that kind of distracts you, takes you away from kind of thinking about it. So that's kind of, don't let yourself be hungry. Eat something that's high protein and high in veg and fruit. Make that a rule, that if you're still hungry after that, then you might entertain the idea, but I can guarantee you probably won't need to eat anything after that. Make sure someone's holding you accountable. The other one is just boredom. I find this is kind of a strange one. I personally don't typically eat just because I'm bored, but people do. People are bored, just flicking through the TV, flicking through social media, and you've got nothing better to do, and you just find yourself kind of walking to the kitchen and just mindlessly eating. Or you've got things on the side, especially around Christmas, there might just be chocolates and nuts and just things on the side that you can eat. Make sure that you are not letting yourself get bored. If that's the case, go back to, do the same thing as the last one. Go for a walk, go for a jog, go to the gym, read a book, do something that takes your mind off food. Go to bed. if it's late and you're just sitting watching TV, and you could probably get yourself a few extra nights, extra hours of sleep, go to bed. Don't let yourself get bored. And that really kind of covers all of them. Some of it will just be habit. But again, these habits are formed typically from being hungry, being bored, being kind of an emotional eater. And other things you can think about is kind of give yourself rules. I like the rule of no matter what I'm going to eat, I track it in MyFitnessPal. because it's one thing to add an extra chocolate bar or a bowl of cereal, and I'm saying that because that's the kind of thing I would eat, or packet of crisps, sweets. If you track it, it makes it real. It literally comes up. You've gone over your calories by 3. You knew you needed 2,000 calories. Now it's saying 2,300. It can be quite tough to do it. So you kind of have that rule where no food that you have is kind of done in secret from the tracking. And if you do those things over time, it typically does get easier. Would imagine the majority of you guys who are struggling with late night snacking probably do so in the earlier phases, and probably that's one of the reasons why you fail and you quit. So it's kind of getting over that hump. It does get easier typically as you start to see results, build better habits, and you start to kind of feel motivated by the things that you're achieving. Can it get harder at the end? It can get harder towards the end when you are like where I am now, because it's hard for me now. I am just hungry. So, and psychologically, I'm like, this is getting a bit, I would like to finish this now. But if you don't fix the late night snacking, you'll always feel powerless. And this isn't just about losing weight now. This is about keeping it off. And I dare say that there's probably quite a lot of you who have done phases where you have fixed this problem in the short term, maybe done it for a few months, maybe lost a few stone for a holiday or a wedding or an anniversary or something, and then gone back to it because you haven't really addressed it. It's like it was just something you kind of you battled with it with your willpower, which doesn't typically work. And just remember, because I have to say this every time I go live, a lot of this always comes back to your why. It's not sexy. I get sick of saying it. But even as someone who has been doing this for over 20 years, has great habits for the most part, I'm human, but my habits are good. I enjoy training. I enjoy the walks. I don't mind eating well, especially when I get the odd day a week where I can eat what I want. I still have to remind myself why it's important. And that is becoming more important the closer I get to the end, where I'm starting to say, quite frankly, sod it, I'm happy now. That's the problem. But that's for another live. This morning was a great example, not necessarily related to snacking, but just having to remind myself this morning when the alarm went off of why I had to go for that walk this morning. Like, why did I have to get up and go at like 5:30, 5:45? And then I came back, put the dogs away, changed my socks and my shoes, and I went straight to the gym. Literally, walk, home, coffee, back to the gym, back home, straight to work. Like, it's hectic, busy, and I'm tired. So reminding myself why is a constant thing that I have to do. I have to stay focused on the goal. Well, if you do that, snacking at night will also be helped, because you will continuously remind yourself of why you have to do it. Why does it suck being overweight? What do you hate about not being able to lose weight? What happens, or what are the consequences if you don't lose weight this time? How are you going to feel if you're watching one of my videos this time next December and nothing has changed? You keep that in mind. Hopefully the idea of a biscuit or two or a little binge becomes, easier to resist. I hope that helps. It's such a common problem, because in an ideal world, we would probably all go home after work, just sit and watch TV and have some chocolates and biscuits. And if you're not dieting, you get the ability, you get calories to play with, because you get more calories when you're not trying to lose body fat. In fact, if you're not trying to lose body fat, you might, in fact, if I was to decide I need to stop losing body fat today, my calories would more than double at this point, literally more than double over the period of a few weeks, because you can gain fat really quickly. But over a period of a few weeks, couple of months, my calories would more than double. So I could sit there at night and have a few more biscuits. You know, I couldn't go mental, but I could have a couple of chocolate bars because I'd have the calories to do it. When you're losing fat, you don't have as many. And don't get me wrong, this is not me saying that you can't have snacks at night. One of the things I haven't said, which is a great tool, which I do all the time and lots of my clients do, is save more of your calories for the evening. Have a lighter breakfast, have a lighter lunch. Again, you got to manage it because you still don't want to be overly hungry, but just have a few more calories for the evening so that you can sit and eat. And if you're somebody that does have the ability to have one biscuit or kind of, you know, one chocolate bar and call it a day, track it and not go over your calories, do that. If you're one of those people that has one biscuit and then ends up binging on 10, probably not a good idea. Hopefully that helps, because for a lot of you guys, the snacking at night is the thing that is stopping you from losing weight. And if you'd like some help with any of this, the nutrition, the training, the kick up the butt that you probably need, and you are looking to start before January, I've got guys coming into my program. I had a couple come in last week and they didn't mention Christmas once when we spoke. Why? Because they want to get in shape and they don't care about the time of year. If you're one of those guys that's ready and willing to fix it, I might be able to help, I might not. Send me a message with the word snacking and we'll see. We'll have a chat. Hope that helps. See you soon.